Will the Telstra TV fulfill your TV viewing fantasies?
Or is the new Apple TV a better fit for your lounge room?
Welcome to Vertical Hold, the tech show where we channel surf through the headlines and search for the big picture. I'm Alex Kidman, and I'm joined by a man who accidentally invented a time machine based on an FJ Holden, Adam Turner. Adam, what's new in tech?
Facebook tends to alert users who they believe have been targeted by government-sponsored hackers, sending you a special notification and recommending that you turn on two-factor authentication. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to government agencies legally seeking access to your data, or to those spy agencies which sneak in the back door.
Want a budget mobile plan? You're kind of spoilt for choice right now. Coles has announced a tie-up with Optus that will see it offering a $10 very, very basic pack. But the big surprising news is the reappearance of Kogan Mobile. Kogan Mobile was originally a Telstra reseller until it calamitously crashed and burned, but it's re-emerged with Vodafone as its source network.
Minecraft has finally launched Story Mode, letting you play along in a choose-your-own-style adventure rather than giving you free reign in a Minecraft environment. Episode 1 is available for computers, smartphones, tablets and game consoles and revolves around main character Jesse as he sets out to save the world.
So Adam, I left my tinfoil hat at home, but by the sounds of it, I'm not going to need it because Facebook's providing me with a tinfoil hat to stop the bad government people spying on me. Is that vaguely correct?
Well, I've got a spare tinfoil hat if you want to borrow it, because I have quite a few.
Awesome.
Basically what it comes down to, and people like Google are already doing this, what Facebook is saying is sometimes we let you know if we think someone's trying to break into your account, but we will particularly point it out to you if we think that a government-sponsored hacker is trying to break into your account. Now, the interesting thing here is what they mean by government-sponsored hacker. They basically mean a hacker who's trying to break into your account, not necessarily a government agency who's using legitimate methods or perhaps non-legitimate methods to take a backdoor into your account. So they're probably not going to catch the NSA.
So it's about catching people who are trying to physically take over your account as opposed to those who might be monitoring your account to discover who you like or don't like.
Yes. It's about, we'll say you're a political dissident and a country that doesn't like you is trying to break into your account to see what you're up to. They will, if they notice suspicious activity like that, they'll let you know, they'll tell you that you should turn on two-factor authentication and maybe say, you need to be more careful. But like when we know what Edward Snowden said that the NSA and some of the others have like to tap into basically the networks of Facebook and Google and try and see what you're doing without having to know your password, sneaking in the back door. It's not going to catch that kind of stuff. Now, to Facebook's credit...
So it's not going to tell me that the Australian government is snooping on all my metadata now, even though that's kind of known.
No, well, but the Australian... Metadata is a whole different thing again. Let's not... No one is keeping track of everything you do on Facebook. Well, no one from the Australian government. Facebook is, but that's a whole different business model.
With my tinfoil hat on, that's just what they want you to think.
Exactly. So, Alex, it's been a big couple of weeks for home entertainment. We've got a new box from Telstra called the Telstra TV. What's that all about?
Well, while the name might suggest a big flat panel, it's actually a really teeny tiny little box.
He loves his big props. Now he's got a little prop.
I love a prop. I love a prop. And if you think this looks vaguely familiar,
yeah, it does.
Well, there's a third-gen Apple TV right next to it. They're very similar kind of devices, and in fact, an awful lot of what they do is also very similar. Yeah. Now, this isn't the first time that Telstra's played in this kind of space because it had the absolutely bloody awful T-Box for years. And if you're a T-Box user, look, I'm really, really sorry. It's not my fault, but I feel for you. The good news with the Telstra TV is that it's much, much better, but that's largely because what Telstra is actually doing here, for the most part, is rebranding rather than building their own hardware.
Yeah. So the big difference here from the T-Box to the Telstra TV is that the T-Box had TV tuners, right? So it could be a PVR and record TV shows. The Telstra TV is just for watching internet video, yeah?
Yeah, it's just a streaming box. It's based on the Roku 2 by and large, although it is a firmware modified Roku 2. So Roku, if you're not familiar with them, are a very large US streaming box brand. They're just about to launch the Roku 4, which is 4K capable. We're not getting that. This thing tops out at 1080p. And Telstra's big pitch with it is that it's designed for all of the streaming services that have legitimately launched here. Most notably Presto, where obviously they've got a bit of a stake. Big Pond Movies, again, Telstra stake. Stan and Netflix, although at launch they're not going to have Stan ready to go. But there's a big spot for it there, as well as some of the homegrown catch-up services. So 7's there and 9's there and SBS is there, but there's no ABC iView at launch and there's no 10Play at launch. Again, they're claiming those by the end of the year.
But so the two things that catch my eye there is, one, they're aiming to have all 5 free-to-air catch-up services, and that's pretty rare on a device, except for maybe a Freeview Plus compatible device. 9's usually the odd one out. You don't see that very often on a home entertainment device. The other thing is that, apart from QuickFlix, who they've ignored, they've tried to put the big streaming services together rather than just say, hey, forget about Netflix, go with ours. So they're kind of trying to give you that one-stop entertainment shop, which is maybe a little bit of a different attitude from Telstra, who in the past is like, you've got everything you need right here, why would you want to go anywhere else?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the reason that they ignored QuickFlix, leaving aside any financial woes that they've got, QuickFlix itself doesn't really have a streaming product after its Presto deal fell apart. And Telstra wants you to use Big Pond Movies. I mean, there's no Apple Movies, there's no Google Movies on this thing. It's still very much a Telstra play, and in fact, you've got to be, to acquire one, you've got to be a Telstra customer, but you don't have to be a Telstra broadband customer. If you've got a cheap prepaid mobile SIM with them, you go spend $2, you can then get an ID which will then let you buy one of these. And the outright price is $109. If you sign up with them for broadband for their larger packages, they'll throw it in for free.
Yeah.
And I mean, having tested it over the last week, it's a perfectly capable little device as long as you're not a power user. I think if you are a power user, if you're already doing a lot of this streaming stuff to your TV, especially if you're casting to it, so if you're using like a Chromecast or the current gen Apple TV, for example, yeah, you're going to find this a little bit lacking. And equally, if you're aware of what Roku does in the States, where it's got thousands of applications and thousands of streaming services that connect through their boxes, well, that's not present at launch, and I don't know that it ever will be. Telstra is on record from their launch, which I attended last week, as saying that they're going to hand curate this stuff. They're not going to suddenly give people this huge wash of options. They're going to purposely kind of pick and choose, and that could have a bit of a limiting effect for power users. For the average kind of mum and dad's audience, though, I think this has got a fair amount of appeal. It does, you know, it ticks that box of saying, right, you plug it in, you set it up, and then it just kind of sits there and does its thing. The interface is easy enough to use, it's quick enough if you've got a reasonable enough connection, and it otherwise kind of just gets out of the way.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm tempted to bag the Telstra TV because I know what a Roku is. I've used a Roku. I know I've got friends who have imported Rokus from the US to watch Netflix on, and for the Plex client, which is streaming video off your home network. You're not going to be able to install that here. And for me, a Roku without Plex is one arm tied behind its back, and why the hell would I want to buy a crippled Roku from Telstra? That's the glass half empty view. But as you say, if you're not a power user and you like the idea of having all 5 catch-up services and a couple of streaming services in one nice cheap box with a decent remote control, it is probably a good deal. So I kind of need to be a bit understanding that not everybody's needs are the same as mine.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't a product for everyone. I mean, for what it's worth, I agree with you on the Plex front, although I was surprised to note they've got Roku's own media player in there, which, from my own testing at least, will talk to DLNA servers. So there's the possibility to stream some media types. And I mean, as with the Apple TV, you might have to do a bit of file conversion on the go, but that's a wait and see kind of prospect. But I was surprised to see it there at all.
Yeah.
I mean, that's available at launch. 12 months down the track, will they have expanded it out? I mean, that's where I guess we'll see the really interesting part. Because, of course, as you alluded to right at the start, it's been an interesting couple of weeks in home entertainment. The flip side of this is we've got a new Apple TV coming, don't we?
Yes, and the Apple TV basically the new Apple TV basically promises to be everything that the Telstra TV isn't. The original Apple TV that we've had 3 generations now has always been locked down because Apple are control freaks. We all know that. So you've got a handful of apps from Apple. This primary job is to get you into the iTunes store. Then later, it also, the big part of it is using AirPlay to send stuff from your Mac or your iPad onto your television. Plus, they've got a few apps like your Netflixes, and I think Stan might be on there now as well. But there's none of this installing your own apps from the App Store rubbish. They just didn't go for that. The big change with the new Apple TV is that you will be able to install your own apps from the App Store. you don't get open slather access to the App Store, which is a good thing because most smartphone apps run like a pig on a television. That's the problem that's been with Google TV in the past, is they've tried to let you do too much.
Google TV's been an absolute dog. I mean, in some ways, it's been an amusing dog. It's kind of it's kind of cute to install a pedometer app onto your TV just because you can.
Yes.
But nobody's going running with the thing strapped to their wrist.
And that's the thing they've done with Android TV as well. The new Android TV only lets you install from one corner of Google Play for apps that are optimized for the television, and Apple's taken the same approach, I think wisely, so you'll only have access to one corner of the store. Now that of course now gives Apple complete control again to decide over what you can and can't have, but they tell me you'll get Plex. To me that's a big deal. I think a lot of people, it's like, shut up and take my money at that point. So as long as they're not too controlling about the apps that they let on there, the Apple TV has a lot more promise to do more than the Telstra TV, but you're not going to get all 5 catch-up services on there. You might not get Presto on there. You've got Stan and Netflix at the moment. So really comes down to what is it that you want to watch in your lounge room and which box ticks the most boxes for you.
For sure. At the same time though, I think there's a bit of a power user thing there as well, because it depends on what the provider of those services lets you do in an AirPlay sense.
Yeah.
So for example, right now, if you've got Presto, you can run Presto on an iPad and you can cast it to, you can AirPlay it, I should say, to an Apple TV, and that will work.
Yes.
That now works. It didn't originally, but it now works. However, if you've got Foxtel and you've got the Foxtel Play app sitting on your iPad, that won't work. No. They specifically block you from doing that.
Yeah.
They don't want a competing set-top box. So some of that comes down to what those services will or won't let you do. I'm not, for that kind of market, I'm not so convinced that it's that important whether or not you're running it off your phone or off your tablet to your TV, as opposed to just having it in your tablet. And I think that's where your Telstra TV kind of says, right, well, this is what you've got and that's it.
Yeah.
In some ways, Apple's model there is, I think, paradoxically, a bit more open. It's not terribly Apple. But then the Apple TV, I think, has also always been that kind of, almost that weird hobby that Apple had. It's like, here's the iPhones, and we really want you to buy iPhones and iPads because they make us oodles of money, and oh yeah, we sell that Apple TV thing, don't we? I mean, when was the last time you went into an Apple store and saw an Apple TV?
Apple TV, yeah. They don't draw a lot of attention to them. It's been a slow burn for them. But the other big thing with this Apple TV is it's not just about TV, it's not just about video anymore. The two big probably changes are, one, that you'll be able to install games on it as well, and the controller will have a gyroscope and an accelerometer, a bit like a Wii controller, so it'll turn it into a reasonable games platform. I'm not too excited about that, but suckers like you will probably fall for that and you'll rebuy all your favourite games again on yet another console.
Gee, you know me so well.
Yes.
No, look, I mean, I'm a little bit ambivalent about this one, I've got to be honest.
Okay.
They've got some interesting franchises lined up that already play in the existing console space, but where they've had their biggest success are in casual games.
Yeah. And
casual games work great on a phone or on a pad. You know, you're waiting for a bus or you're sitting on a train or whatever, you've got a couple of minutes to kill. When I sit down in front of the TV, if I'm thinking games, I'm a fair bit more focused. I'm probably going to think, right, what's something I actually want to play for like half an hour?
Yeah.
Not something I want to blink up for 2 seconds or 30 seconds while I'm waiting for something to happen. And whether they can jump that gulf will be really fascinating to see, especially if they can jump it in a way that produces and provides games that are genuinely compelling and worth buying for their own sake.
And the other big thing that is probably the slow burn here is that this Apple TV looks like it can be the heart of a HomeKit home automation system. So HomeKit is Apple's home automation protocol, and you're starting to see light bulbs and other stuff that will work with it. One of the frustrations is that if you're using your iPhone to talk to one of these smart light bulbs, it's a Bluetooth connection, it's a one-to-one connection, and it becomes a bit awkward when you're trying to control a whole lot of things at once. Now, the Apple TV can sort of like act like the middleman, sit at the heart of your home. You can talk to it using Siri, or you can use your iPhone and tell it what to do, and then it can drive all the stuff in your smart home. So I don't think anyone's going to rush out and buy one for that today, but that's sort of something that it might become more valuable over time.
Speaking of becoming more valuable over time, though, they're still not talking 4K, are they?
Yeah, some people reckon that's stupid, like it was a no-brainer you want to have 4K. But the thing is, Apple doesn't offer any 4K content at the moment. The people who offer 4K content at the moment are Netflix. So Apple's obviously sat down and crunched the numbers and thought, if we put Ultra HD in this box, 4K, Are we helping ourselves or are we helping Netflix? Because Netflix is now pretty much a competitor because Apple's talking about launching its own streaming service. So if Apple was ready to offer 4K content tomorrow, 4K would be in the Apple TV. Because they're not, they don't want to give Netflix a leg up, and so we miss out. I think that's what it comes down to.
Oh, it's definitely a bit of a future-proofing argument because, I mean, equally, yeah, Netflix might have 4K. Hands up everyone in the audience who's got a network connection fast enough to actually handle it. Yeah, I thought so. The silence is deafening. Yes. But equally, it's one of those things where it's becoming more common. It's starting to filter down. And you've got to think that certainly it's not a costs argument. It's not a design argument or a heat argument or a power argument. It's simply not there because Apple doesn't want it there. Because, again, as you say, they don't currently do 4K content. Although, curiously, of course, they'll sell you a 4K or 5K iMac right now quite happily. There's a weird little double standard there too. But of the two of them, if you had to pick right now, you've got to buy one for yourself and one for your mum. Who's getting what?
Whoa. Yeah, for me it's definitely the Apple TV because I want that extra flexibility. There's a few things I can do with it now. I want to see what it does in the future. It's almost as much curiosity as I want to see where they go with it. For my parents it would be the Telstra TV and a better internet connection for them. Because and theirs is still better than mine, which is the really sad thing. Because it would give them what they want at their fingertips. No faffing about.
Well, that just about wraps it up for another episode of Vertical Hold. If you've got any comments, leave them on our YouTube page, via Facebook or Twitter.
Thanks for joining us. Remember, if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button.